I just have to try this stuff. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try out the inks and just play around on some old packaging cardstock. You get new items, you have packaging. Well, I save all that so that I can just play. So I'm gonna take some broken china, and you know, the way he says it, you just go boop, boop, boop. Oh, okay, so it looks like you do this. You have to really press, you know? So I got some broken china there, and I'm gonna take some worn lipstick next to it. Ooh, I think I'm gonna do some peeled paint. Oh, I do wanna try this cracked pistachio. Let's see what the water does to it. Oh, look at it move. This is the peeled paint without oxidation. This is what it looked like before I put water on it. This is what it looks like now that it has water on it. So if you're huge into like the vintagey stuff, oh heck yeah, this is your jam right here, man, because look at that, you know? Look how bright that pink was, and it softened it. Look how bright that blue was. There's a difference. There's the oxidation, and here's without the water. Yeah, you can stamp with this. It's an acid-free, non-toxic. It's a water-reactive dye and pigment ink fusion that creates an oxidized effect when sprayed with water. Used with stamps, stencils, and direct-to-surface. Blend using ink blending tools and foam. Re-ink with Distress Oxide re-inkers. You buy them once and you have them for life. You just have to buy the re-inkers. I mean, I didn't do anything except spray this with water. Faded jean. I went over that. None of this stuff went onto the pad. The pad is real firm spot. You can see where the vintage photo didn't touch a wet spot and it's real bright, but then it touched this wet spot and it's definitely lighter and more oxidized. Fired brick we'll do over here, and some spice marmalade. I put this purple on here and it has some wet spots still on the page, and you can see where it's oxidizing and it turns into a totally different color. And add some water to this. I mean, I added a lot of water. I'm gonna keep adding it too, just to see what it does. Oh, stop. Look at that spice marmalade just going into that wilted violet. You can kind of see the oxidation on top here. I like the way it looks. So I'm gonna dry it. So I've got part of it dry and part of it wet. So I'm gonna continue to roll through it and see what happens. So that's pretty decent. I grabbed my Tim Holtz Stampers Anonymous collection, Stamp and Stencil Grunge stamp. That's a mouthful, isn't it? So anyway, I grabbed the circle portion of that collection and I started stamping around the page just to see what would happen. I smudged the ink on a piece of acetate and then I sprayed it with water, and then I took the stamp and I just placed that on top of the ink that was on my acetate. Then I got bored of that and I was like, forget this. I'm just gonna grab the entire collection of stamps and I'm gonna get it all full of ink and whip it on this piece of paper here just to see what that does. I mean, it saved me a crap ton of time, so why not do it, right? And I got to test out all my stamps that I had. I love this background set. Wow, what a difference. And I grabbed my Molotov acrylic paint pens and started just taking my time and letting my hand kind of do a lazy stroll on my paper. And I'm using Dare Orange, yellow, traffic red, pink. As we go through here, I'm also using a Pen Touch white quick dry permanent opaque marker. You can tell by the way that I'm holding my pen, I'm just letting the pen walk around the paper itself. I don't want it to look like I meant to do it. I want these to have their own personality for when I cut the pieces, that they look all different on the backgrounds that I make for my ATCs. When I use the white pen, you can kind of see that I want the scrolls and I want it to look like graffiti, so I'm making my marks more intentional. I grabbed the Distress Oxide ink in the cracked pistachio, and I'm using a leftover blender sponge from my Simon Says Stamp card kit, and I placed it on top of my Tim Holtz Distress Ink blender tool. I started blending the cracked pistachio on the edges of the paper, and then I took my mini mister and I spritzed it with water just to see what kind of results I would get. There is another technique that you can use where you take your Distress Oxide inks and you smush them onto a piece of acetate, spritz it with water, and then take your acetate and place that on top of the paper, and you get a whole nother look. In fact, you get a look that's very similar to like a smudged watercolor effect. And you let that dry, and then as soon as you let that dry, you do that again and you keep layering it, and then you get this really cool effect, which is not something that I did in this piece, but I'm going to be doing it in the future. So stay tuned for that. And then I decided, hey, I'm going to do the same thing with my spice persimmon. So I grabbed some Distress Oxide inks in that color and I blended that around the paper. And then I took my mini mister and I went to town on my paper. I let it dry and I decided to cut them out into the ATC backgrounds for my Cranes of Hope artist trading cards. And these are the results. Thanks for joining me today. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you want to see what I create next, subscribe to my channel and ring my bell so that you're notified in your email box the next time I upload. Until next time, love you guts. Bye!